Hello, ladies and gentlemen. As human beings, we are multidimensional mind, body, and spirit. Every aspect of who we are can potentially soar in terms of optimal health, but the opposite can also be true. Every aspect of who we are can struggle with ill health. The physical health challenges, somehow people tend to be able to entertain and almost see it as part of life. The spiritual, we don't really focus too much on in medical science, but in the mental health challenges, people see it as taboo. Why? I don't know, because this is just a part of who we are. In life, every single one of us knows somebody, maybe a family member, maybe a friend, maybe a child, or a parent who struggles mentally, and society somehow don't know how to deal with it. And today, I just met a friend whom I've been talking with for a number of years. And she's agreed to come on camera and to just talk frankly of her experiences with mental challenges. She has had to cope, she's had to give care, and she's had to overcome. And so it is in her overcoming, as I talked with her, I realized that the world needs to know. People need to become more aware, and we need to just take off the mask and deal with the reality, because this is a reality that's not going to go anywhere anytime soon. All right? So, my friend Karen is here to talk with me today. Let's see what she has to say. Welcome, Karen. I'm so happy you consented to talking with me today. And I know you have a lot to say. Yes, and I know what you have to say will help somebody. And so, Karen, I know you're not medically trained, but from your experience, can you tell me what is mental illness?
Okay, thank you so much, Donald. I am happy to be here and I'm happy to share my experiences. Yes, disclaimer, I'm not a medical doctor at all, not trained in that area at all. But I tell you, as the saying goes, nothing beats experience, right? And as a result of that, I've had my fair share of experiences. As I was sharing with you earlier, I have to wonder sometimes if it may be a result of some of my prayers early out, whether or not, because I remember praying to God for humility, because I recognize the value in being humble. So based on that, I recognized that at that time that humility can help you to grow spiritually and otherwise. So that being said, as it relates to mental health, my short definition of that would be the absence of wellness spiritually, physically, psychologically, and the inability to function optimally in your daily life.
So, Karen, I know that as a human being who is processing life, who is faced with many challenges, and somehow struggling to find your footing, we can become mentally challenged. Yes, and at points, as I shared with you, I can look back at myself when I had a 2 year old. I would just come home from work and I can think of all the things that I did not accomplish on the ward for that day. And that is after being at work for 8 hours, for 9 hours, leaving work at 4, having gone there from 7, never stopped to eat, never stopped to drink anything, never used the bathroom. And I'm heading home now, and my heart is telling me I still have a list of things that I did not accomplish. And I go home to a 2-year-old child, and I could not find a smile. In my mind, that is a mental challenge. It is a mental challenge. And I tell you, ladies and gentlemen, that day, I decided that I was not going to stay in that job because I was losing myself. And my husband would say to me, if you drop down and die, they'll find another person to put in your place. They'll just employ another nurse. So I had to learn to take care of myself. So, Karen, you are a person. You're a human being who has had to process life. And in the processing, things happen. So, share with me your personal experience.
Oh my goodness, let me tell you, the book is coming. However, because only the book can share a portion, not even the whole story. But you know, I became a mental wellness advocate because of my journey. But the final result that you're seeing now was my personal recent experience with one child. However, when I look back, it's my decision is really as a result of my complete journey, because as a young adult, becoming a parent, single parent, and funny when I look at it now, some of the fathers we choose to to co-create with and to bring children into this world, and it speaks a lot to us as a human being, and or some of the mental challenges we're faced with, because many times we so it affects your choices, you know. And so because of as I tell you, you know, this interview couldn't tell the whole story, but coming from as a child, growing up, born and raised in Jamaica, I have faced abuse of all kinds as a child, because I lost my father when I was 13 years old, 12 or going 13. And my mom, when I look at it, seemed to have suffered from mental challenges. And if I did not, you know, investigate her history, I wouldn't come to understand and forgive her for not being what I would have considered a more responsible parent. I would have considered my father to be the more, you know, incidentally, the more responsible parent, but then I didn't have him for too long. So I had to navigate and through life almost practically on my own and find my way through. And when I look at it now, it must have been a case where the whole family was suffering from a form of mental challenge, you know, as a result of all the things that we have had to face, neglect and all of these things, you know, from coming from generations. And this is why you hear people talk about generational curse. But it's not a curse that in a way that it cannot be broken. It's a decision that you have to make within yourself, that it has to go. It has to be broken. And so as a result of that, later on in my life, I've had to deal with, I had a breakdown when I was 21 years old. I ended up in Ward 21, you know, for those who don't know, the University of the West Indies. And
That's a psychiatric ward.
that is a psychiatric ward at the University Hospital. And so, but because of the kind of person I am, I'm always seeking to find solutions, because it wasn't a case where others looked on and decided that, no, you need help. I knew within myself that this is not me. I need to get the necessary help that I need. I need to be well. Of course, I was a young girl. And at the time, I had one child, you know, she was a year old. And I recall one of my family members bringing her to visit me. And the expression on her face as a 1-year-old child, I'll never forget it. It broke my heart. And I said, no, I'm not going to take this. This will not be what is used to define me and my family.
Though you were faced with a mental challenge, you started working on your spiritual man and you started feeding your physical man. So the approach to care, not just the physical, but the mental and the spiritual. Girl, you found the secret. Yes, yes, yes. So, so yes, that was a little bite of your experience. And let me just say, ladies and gentlemen, this mental health challenge thing that Karen mentioned, she said she looked back and she realized that her entire family must have struggled. Let us be honest with ourselves. The reality is, though we may not get to a stage where we commit ourselves like Karen did, every single one of us, our health is on a spectrum, just like the physical. Sometimes you're strong, you can jump a high wall, or you can lift 100 pounds, but there are times when you cannot lift your foot to go up a step. The same person, that's the continuum, that's the muscle strength, the capacity. The same thing with the mental capacity. So sometimes mentally we are not at the place where we can do the heavy lifting, and sometimes we need a little help. A teacher of mine said to me, all of us are a little challenged mentally. The important thing is that we don't stay over on that side for too long. Yes, the problem is sometimes when we go over, we stay. So you may go over and talk to yourself, and sometimes you answer yourself, but you don't stay there too long. So, Karen, as we continue to navigate life, we grow up, we get older, we grow. And you said it, you work on yourself. And that's probably part of why I'm on this wellness journey, It's not just for physical health, but whole health. If you're well in one aspect and not in the other, you're not well, you know? And and as Paul said, brethren, I wish above all else that you would prosper, that your soul, that you would prosper. What did he say exactly again?
Be in good health.
That you would prosper and be in good health, even as your soul prospers. So yes, many of us, we go to church, and yes, man, we're on top of things, and we're worshiping and we're praising the Lord. But physically, we're struggling. And mentally, we're struggling. And sometimes we are willing to talk more about the physical challenge, but the mental challenge, we suffer in silence. Yes, many times people suffer in silence until you break. But we don't have to break. The reality is we have community. And we have to take off the, what is it? Take off the stigma. Put the stigma down and talk openly. And some people are even afraid of the word mental challenge. We need to call it something else. Anything but mental challenge can be spiritual challenge or physical challenge, but it cannot be mental challenge. The reality is all of us struggle with it, and our loved ones struggle with it. And we don't have to suffer in silence. We don't have to suffer alone. We have each other. Children have their parents. You can talk to the people who are around you. It is a lie to think that you're alone and that you are the only one going through this. Right? So, Karen, I know you've struggled with your son. Tell me about that.
My challenge with my son started about 6 years ago. He was about 9 or 10 thereabout, and he started getting depressed. But I'm always the kind of parent, or maybe the kind of person who pays attention, you know. So while I recognized that one of the things that I, as a single parent, daddy not present, I realized that I can never be a father. And so no matter what I did, I couldn't help him. No matter what I did, I couldn't help him. I went to church, the church community tried to pray for him, all kinds of things. You know, I worked with him. I tried to change his all of these things. It never worked initially. But then when he became suicidal, and I had to take him to the hospital, at that point, I had to make a decision because I realized something was happening here that I wasn't comfortable with, and that is the medicating with the synthetic drugs. And while I'll say this over and over, I have the utmost respect for doctors because they have a space, you know, there's a space for them. But when it comes on to the mental health, just today I was at Bellevue and one of the doctors admitted it, that when it comes on to mental health, it's a complicated subject, and they're still learning, and they're still it's going to take a while for them to completely get to understand that your mental health is closely connected to your spiritual health, and in a combination with everything else. If you don't tackle it from that angle, then you're going to be working, you know, in a circle, in a spiral, going back to the same place. So this is one of the reasons why I found from investigation that they have a high turnover rate. So people come to them and they try to do what they can do, medicate them and all of that, but they go home and come back. So there's no healing taking place. So I learned all of this. I observed with research and all of this from my experience with my son. You know, they claimed, and I use this expression deliberately, they claim that, you know, they're diagnosing him with bipolar disorder and OCD. And I said, not my child. I said, not my child. Right? Yeah? Power of the words, power of the words. And I believe in this kind of energy too. So it has been a struggle because at the end of the day, each individual I found needs to recognize that his ability to manage his mind, manage his spiritual space, manage his energy is a big part of the challenge. So I think a lot of persons have given up their power. And when you give up your power, all kinds of things will befall you. You open doors. So though with my son, I had to. So he was hospitalized for a while and he kept going back because they started him on medication, and this threw me off. And this was before I had some of the knowledge I now have. But then I made up my mind. And when Karen McLeod makes up her mind to do something, you know, and I commit to it. So I started researching herbs and programs and all of these things, talking to professionals, whoever I could speak with. And so, yes, he was on medication for a while. I got him counseling for a couple of years. But I coached him. I prayed with him. I chanted with him. I chanted for him. I asked for help. And this is another thing. You can't allow your pride to prevent you from getting the help you need. Right? You have to be focused on your goal and what you want to achieve. So as a result of this, change this diet, change my outlook to spirituality.
So now you are
I
can do that.
no, I am. I know I can.
All right.
I know. As a matter of fact, I've already won.
Yes.
I've already won.
Wow.
So what needs to happen now is for you to claim it, because many times I found that the answer is right there, and you keep going around it because of some of the traumas many of us have been through. We get stuck. Yeah, so we don't, as I said before, we give away our power. And so when I look at my child now, because from the lifestyle changes, getting him involved in activities, so it was a comprehensive turn. Diet, activities that included certain sporting events, like I got him into taekwondo, I got him doing swimming. The water is powerful, you know. I don't know if anybody knows this, but that water has, you know, powers in it, you know, and healing powers. And so he would go to the river. Well, he started out going to from school to a pool to learn to swim. Then we transitioned to the river, and he has found his power in the water, so he would regularly go to the river.
So you spoke of your time during the pandemic when the lockdown was happening and the isolation and the struggle to maintain the mental wellness. And you told me a habit that you developed with your son, and you would take hikes. And tell me about that. How has that helped him?
Tell you the power of determination, because once you know what you want and you make up your mind that this is what you're gonna get, then you execute accordingly. And so I know what he needed, and so I worked with him. So I would have to get up even during the lockdowns where the police would lock up people for going out because they would tell you turn your yard. I said, no, my child, his health comes first. So I would get up early in the morning and I would take him 2-3 miles up the hill where we lived, and take him and allow him. There times, most of the times we'd get there, and as cold as it is, he loves the water like that. There's nobody else at the river, just he and I. And I'd allow him, I'd do videos with him jumping off into the river. And I tell you something, he would come alive. He would come alive. So we have to recognize, we have to pay attention to our loved ones to see what they need, and we have to try our best to work with them. There comes a time when, it becomes extremely difficult. But let me tell you something. I have been to places, where at times when I would feel absolutely overwhelmed, like I can't go any further. But let me tell you, the Holy Spirit, every single time, the source of our energy in our life, always provide the necessary energy that I need to do what needs to be done.
You need to take personal responsibility for your health, for your loved ones' health, and teach your loved ones to take personal responsibility for themselves. I know that our challenges are not just for us to have challenges, but there is a greater call on our lives when we face challenges, no matter what they are. And so, as we spoke, I'm recognizing that there's a call on your life because of these challenges. And so, I know my friend is taking a journey to establishing more support, a different model of support for parents who are going through similar struggles. So I'm hoping that one day I will hear about that foundation, something, because people need that safe space. People need the safe space where you can take your child, and it's not a mental institution, but a safe, comfortable, happy space. So you have a dream, Karen?
Oh yes, it's funny you should mention the calling and the fact that our challenges that come to us, it's not always it's, as a matter of fact, once we get to a place in life where we recognize that our problems are not really problems but lessons, and it's a journey that is very important in our development and growth, then we start recognizing and seeing challenges in a different way. Right? So when I look back at my life now, oh my, I have to smile. I say, wow, no matter what I've gone through, the abuses, the difficulties, some of them I wouldn't necessarily want to go through them again. But then I am in complete appreciation for the journey, because if I didn't go through this, then I couldn't help anybody else. And when I look at the pain that I see out there with so many of our families, so my dream is to empower families. My dream is to promote supportive communities where the community, not just the family unit, but the community will take responsibility for the family and for our children and with the development, because we don't live in a vacuum. We all impact each other. We all affect each other. And so if we take this approach, then we don't have to look to the government. We'll be looking to ourselves. And I think this is where the success needs to come from. So my dream, ultimately, I'm working on the foundation. And I am also, yes, and I'm working on a holistic rehabilitation center for teenagers because I've recognized that we need to pay more attention to our children or youth because otherwise, then the future is not going to be what we want. Right? So, on account of this, the journey continues, and now I am excited. I'm all excited. Yeah. Oh yes. So all my what I would have considered to be struggles, difficulties, it all the school, human school of learning, of growth and development that I can use now to not only benefit myself but benefit others.
We thank God for all the ingredients that went into developing this building. I'm looking forward to the solid building. Every sand, the experiences, every grain of sand is the experience. Every ounce of cement, yes, every bit of gravel that went into the block is the experience and the relationships that you built along the way. My friend Karen, it's been such a pleasure talking to you. And I look forward to talking to you again when that foundation is registered and when the space is being prepared. We will come and plant a couple things in the garden. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for watching. Thank you.